Hey everyone, I'm Kendall, the SDA storyteller, and finally, after all this time, we have an interview with Elena and Olivia, who designed the characters for Veggietales in the house. They were overseeing a lot of production and a lot of the new designs from the age of 19. Yeah, and they'll talk about it, but oh my goodness, they were so young when they actually redesigned Veggietales. Which, look, whether you liked the designs for the show or you didn't like the designs of the show, from a professional standpoint, that's an impressive feat. I've worked on a bunch of stuff. I've never completely redesigned a beloved character from the 90s. So, kudos to them. This is a fantastic interview, rich with in-depth looks into Veggietales, really, and the design process. If you're interested in being a character designer, I would suggest this is where you start. And you can definitely find them on Instagram and on Tumblr, and most importantly, check out their Kickstarter. Now, yes, I know I'm releasing this so late that their Kickstarter is long done, but they do have a donate page, so if you want to help donate and help them make their short film, this would be a great opportunity. And other than that, well, enjoy the interview. The first half is the Veggietales stuff, if that's what you're here for. But I would suggest you stick around for the whole thing. Learn about The Moon and Me comic book, webtoon, and check out what they have for their short. I would suggest you subscribe to them too. But yeah, before we start, also, if you love the stuff I do, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys at the end of the video.
Let's move, is what I was gonna say.
Just say hello to the audience if you would like to.
Hello.
Awesome. So, my first question to you guys is, tell us a little bit about your adventures in the animation industry.
So we were introduced into studio animation life around 2013 for our first job in Veggie. For DreamWorks TV / Big Idea at the time. But a few years prior, we were doing freelance for Disney Toon, Universal, Nickelodeon, and a few other things before we got picked up to go work at DreamWorks TV. But before that, we were planning to go to art school called SCAD, and we had only attended for 2 weeks until we got picked up to work. So we say we went to art school, but we kind of didn't because we don't have a degree. But we continued to work on Veggie for about 3.5 to 4 years, perhaps, and jumped on. I was in Tennessee, and then we moved to California to work on the Trolls TV series, The Beat Goes On, and then after that gig for a couple of years, we moved on to Skydance. Worked on a few projects there, and then we recently, last year, moved back to our hometown in Georgia and are currently freelancers. So that's pretty much our journey.
Fantastic. Were you called on to Veggietales and Big Idea Television, or I guess DreamWorks Television, for the Noah's Ark? Or were you called in just after that?
So actually the Noah's Ark, wasn't that
I think it was, unless they had ideas for it before, but I think for us, when we were working on, in the house at the time, it seemed like it came after.
Mm-hmm.
Or either like it was in production before or whatnot, but that was something we knew of after.
But we were asked to come on for Veggietales in the house.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be okay, Mrs. Hamster. Your heart will go on.
It might have been in pre-production before, but
because the DreamWorks side was a little bit different from the Big Idea side. They were a little bit separated, so Mike and Chris Wall and them were kind of doing their own thing, while the DreamWorks TV side were doing our own thing, all in the same building.
Okay, so wait, were you in? Is it in Chicago? Is that where in Illinois?
It was in Franklin, Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee.
I know Big Idea was originally in Chicago, but yeah, they moved over there. That's where we were working at.
Nice. What was that environment like?
Like I was like the location environment or the
Well, okay, better way to ask this question. I'm being too vague for my own dang good. So maybe I should start with, you grew up with watching Veggietales. Yes, no, maybe, perhaps.
We were familiar with it. You know, we saw it while we were in church and stuff, and you know, they played videos and whatnot.
I think when in its popularity, we were a little bit older.
Like, yeah, I think maybe like kind of at a time. Yeah, but we didn't. I will say, I don't think we like watched it like maybe a lot of other fans did. But you know, we were very familiar with what it was. So yeah. So it's like, okay. Oh yeah, the talking vegetables. So.
Yeah, you didn't go Veggietales. What the hey is that? You're okay. And so so that's the reason why I asked, like, what was it like in the studio? Was it in the studio? Because I kind of get the impression most of the quote unquote old heads had generally moved on to other things, and it was Doug TenNapel taking over this series. And
yeah, I feel like there was a few from the older production that stayed on. I think some with marketing and some parts they weren't like the art department, but like, yeah, I think a lot more marketing kind of stuff. I think that's where the older crew kind of, and I think obviously we worked with someone who was a part of the original crew too, so he kind of worked alongside us. But yeah, it was mostly new people on our end for the new show.
Like the building itself too was kind of like divided in a way where like most of the one side was all the DreamWorks people, and then the other side kind of had the older people, you know, and they were, you know, they still had like rights to certain things, you know, so they were kind of working on their own version of Veggietales while we were all working on the new one. So it was definitely interesting. Not that they all took it bad, but you know, it was kind of like varying opinions while we were all working on the show. So it was very interesting time there.
I can't shrug any harder.
I know we've already spoken about this, but working with Tim Hodge, you worked with anybody else? Like, I know you said you worked with some of the people, but would you be able to give some, I think, name names? Let's name drop some people.
Well, from your studio. Yeah, we had worked with Tim. I don't know how many people you would actually recognize, but you know, a lot of them have gone on to work in the industry now, and so yeah, I mean, honestly, you might only recognize like, you know, Tim, and I don't know if you know Jim Elston.
I recognize the name. I know Tom Bancroft. I doubt he was still there.
He wasn't. He helped with, I think, some like initial early designs, or like kind of like, I think when they were trying to figure out the style of the show, but kind of like in the very, very early pre-production days, but he wasn't on full time.
Yeah, he wasn't on the project. But I'm probably going to say that the majority of the people you probably don't know, because a lot of them at the time, I mean, you know, including ourselves, that was all of our kind of first big studio job. So I'd probably just say Tim would probably be the only person you recognize from the old team. Everyone else was pretty much new.
That's fair.
But we're good friends with some of them now, even though we all live apart.
Lots of contracts, I imagine, like lots of, like you said, first time artists.
Yeah. Well, some people close to more to our age, so it was kind of a new venture for everyone to some extent.
Okay, that's really cool though. And I will continue to ask like questions about like your Kickstarter and stuff like that. Don't let me forget that. I don't think I will. But, but I do want to ask, what was it? So you guys had designed characters. You said you worked for like Disney Toon and stuff like that, like doing contract work. What was your, I guess, the goal in when you were redesigning Veggietales characters?
So actually, we were the production designers, which means we were responsible for designing the whole show. So locations, backgrounds, you know, characters, obviously. Obviously, we didn't do any like the 3D modeling or anything. That was done by, you know,
The
People
modelers, yeah.
know. But yeah, we were in charge for the overall look of the show, the essence of the show, the design language and everything like that. So
I guess the main core thing is that, well, at the beginning stages, there's a lot of like mishmash, like, you know, what the characters can kind of look like, some with arms or legs, or like how far, you know, they kind of wanted to push it. But I think it ultimately ended off at a point where like they felt, you know, different but familiar, and you know, like I guess they're more textured,
Yeah,
colored
definitely.
irises. You know, it's like it kind of not. I wouldn't say for us not a huge deal, but
they
you know,
they
it's a
definitely
stark
went
difference.
through some very strange iterations, but it was all part of the, I guess, discovery process and trying to flesh them out. So there's a lot of designs that were done in the beginning that will never see the light of day, but that were very interesting iterations of the characters. But you know, it's a combination of executive input as well, and old and new, and the designs ended up being what they were.
No, fair enough. Please tell me, was there a design with arms and legs? I need to know. Like you guys.
I mean, there was one never modeled, but we drew some ideas with. But I will say, like the ideas we kind of just, you know, everyone was just giving their feedback, like, oh, let's just try something extreme, and then we kind of find a middle ground, and then something like really close to the, you know, the original design, and then they kind of chose like what felt right, you know. So we felt like we ended up somewhere kind of in the middle, you know, kind of like different but safe. Presumably
Yeah,
safe.
no. we'll get to that. The reason I ask is because like I've done very little design myself. It is something where I get too attached to some designs where I'm like, oh my goodness, I really like how this is turning out. And then the client is like, no, go with the other one. But I put my heart and I know that's the one thing you're not supposed to do, but I know that, like, I don't know, I would have loved to see any other stuff that you guys have done, but I think that's really fascinating because, and I'm just gonna say, it was kind of cool that you used, whether it was just you or if it was a complete team, I guess, bouncing ideas off of each other, but plant designs into the homes and into the buildings and stuff like that. Like you'll see Bob and Larry's house, and one of their chairs will be cucumber design, like the ridges and everything like that, and one of them will be tomato design. I'm like, oh, that's really clever. Like at a glance, I can tell that's Bob's chair, that's Larry's chair. Or you will see, like, heck, actually, I'm going to show you guys this. This is what I got from when I worked at Bardell. This was the Rudy shirt.
Oh,
yeah.
Right? Like
that was cute. Yeah.
Yeah, I got my little Bardell thing on one end and the Veggietales in the house.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, and like I love the design on Rudy, which is a character that didn't exist in the original Veggietales, but was really clever to use like the prop. Man, the people in Veggietales are going to hate me for saying this, but I feel like sometimes the problem in Veggietales was wait a second, that's an actual bear or an actual sheep. The world of cucumbers and tomatoes. So do we have like 9-foot tall vegetables, or is this unique where it's like this is a really small bear? But like, for example, the buffalo orange and the cat, I think it's a cherry cat.
Cherry cat.
Yeah. I thought that was really clever to like make them also vegetable and fruit creatures, so they kind of fit into the world.
I definitely think that those kind of separate, like for the show type of characters that were completely new, I'm gonna say I thought we did a pretty good job on like making them like interesting, you know.
I definitely feel like we had more freedom to kind of do side characters of design. Yeah. I mean, because like, you know, the main core cast, they had to look a little bit familiar, but yeah, you know, for the extras, it's like, oh, we can kind of do something a little, I don't know if I would say different, but yeah, a little bit more from the original design language of maybe the original Veggies, a little, you know, like kind of a weird thing. Like I feel like with some of them, you could like space out the eyes a little bit more or something. I mean, because I know they had that sort of, you know, I guess iconic, like, you know, close together the eyes, the original Veggie eyes, but yeah, you know, kind of like breaking the rules a little, but yeah, that was kind of an interesting way to do things.
It's fine. It's fine. As an artist, I appreciated what I saw. I
Mhm.
knew, and I saw the responses, and actually, well, that's a perfect segue into the responses. I knew, I was like, huh, this is not what I expected. The irises, the eyebrows, all that stuff. But I also knew that, like, in making the Pirates Don't Do Anything movie, there was an issue with, like, Paw Grape, where in a cartoon, like the regular show, when it was just Phil and Mike doing whatever they wanted, there was no oversight. Nobody was like, hey, man, I don't know what that grape is thinking, man. I can't see those eyebrows or anything reacting. But yeah, once you get into like a more studio flow, there is always someone going, hey, look, can we make this more clear? Especially when you're making shows for kids, where and I'm going to show you how nerdy I am for a second. I've got a couple of the little Veggietales, like the figures
Oh my
from
gosh.
in the house.
Oh yeah.
Right? And like I look at Paw Grape, that's a perfect example where hiding his mouth underneath the mustache, cool, right? Using the eyebrows and even using his like actual glasses to react to things. While some of this was in the original thing, Paw Grape never had eyes, right? So it's kind of fun to have it bouncing around and be more expressive like that. Bob, I suppose.
Oh yeah. That's
And
the
I
first
like
time
this.
I've seen those.
Yeah.
Oh, really? You hadn't seen these? Man, I
You
should
know,
say.
a lot of toy product stuff, like we'd see some of it happening in the studio, but none of us got to see what was happening like behind the scenes with the toy products. They'd say, hey, does this color look okay? And we're like, yeah, sure. But we didn't know, how much merchandise they actually made, so that's interesting.
I mean, like, they didn't make a ton of merchandise for the show, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys know that.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah. But I was going to say, when we're all done this, maybe I'll send you a bag or two. A bunch of them I haven't opened because I used to give them to my, like, when I taught at church, I just kind of gave them out to kids. And kids would try to collect them all. There is one though I haven't opened, and I'll open it at the end of our talk. I'm very sure it's
the little blind
LarryBoy.
bag or something. That's cool.
Yeah, they were all blind bags,
Oh,
right? And they came with all the different.
that would have been cool to have. We
Took
never
off the
got those.
eyebrows.
Oh yeah, they
Yeah.
took off the eyebrows.
I am definitely. Yeah, they
funny.
took
That's
off the
yeah.
eyebrows. A lot of these.
Yeah.
And don't worry, I will definitely send you guys one, but we'll talk about that later.
All right.
I am looking forward to opening this one. I'm pretty sure it's LarryBoy, and I would like to talk to you about the design on LarryBoy and how that was a creative process, just as one example. But we do need to talk about the reaction. And I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to let you guys tell me what it was like when the show characters were revealed and what it was like and how you guys felt.
Yeah. Well, I feel like people already started not responding to it well when they first heard they're going to be redesigned. And that was just, that happens with like literally any show that goes through a major design change. I don't know. I think that's the nature of like beloved franchises, it's like, oh, they look different. And I guess they might think like maybe their personalities are going to change. And, maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But when the designs were released, what wasn't the most positive reaction? We kind of expected it, but, admittingly, it's like, it's still kind of like, ugh. Like, it's almost like, man, really people are that mad about it?
It's hard for your first studio job to have your work be criticized in a way where, and I guess I'll be honest here, I don't want to make anyone upset, but it's not, I woun't say a lot of it. I mean, a few years have passed, I can say this now, but like, at the time, like some of it is not like super valid criticism. I mean, it's more of like out of response to a property, and I think the nostalgic connection to it, and I think that's where the reaction really comes from. But from a technical standpoint, I do think there are some more, to me, I won't say like improvements, but they weren't unappealing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's subjective whether you like the designs or not, or I say it's subjective, but that's what it comes. The reaction didn't come from a subjective place. You know what I mean?
It's like they should only look like this forever. And like I said, we'll be honest, it's like we didn't really have a very tight attachment to Veggietales. I mean, you know, we were familiar with, so I guess it's why we're like, you know, as our job, like, sure, we'll task and redesigning them.
But we had in mind that we knew people liked them, so we designed them in the way where we felt like they were still respectable to the original designs. And like, if you know, it's like your own fandom stuff, how you would kind of like, you know, you would make something in your own way. That's just kind of the way we would genuinely approach things, obviously, you know, with executive input and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But we didn't, I know for us, as we design things and anything, we don't come from a place of like not acknowledging the initial, like, you know, fan base. You know what I mean? Like we weren't just some executive robot just making things just to make. Well, we thought like, oh, we want Petunia to have a cute little, you know, side swept bang with a little, you know, like we had fun making it. It wasn't a heartless decision.
We didn't exactly choose the purple color. It doesn't look bad on her, but that's, you know, that stuff like that. It's like, well, it's for toys, you know, like, but, you know, kind of have to deal with what you get. And it's like, you know, like, it's kind of, I would say somewhat like it's your decision, but then it's like other people's kind of like, you know, thoughts on it, and, you know, how it would.
We designed from the heart. We had good intentions, but the obviously the reaction, it was expected, but we didn't expect it to be that big, I guess. Like we remember one instance where the news came out, was on Facebook, and there were like thousands of comments, not like hundreds, but like 3,000 comments or something. And then there was even, I don't know who it was, but some people were linking our Tumblr at the time. Like, these are the people who designed it. And then we started getting messages like, why did you ruin my Veggietales? You know, that kind of thing. That's the honest thing, you know. It's kind of one of those things, a negative aspect that we don't really want to like always hone in on what happened and like have that kind of negative connection to a very small negative part from the show. But it was a moment. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the designs continued and shows were made. So
yeah,
it's too late now.
I am going to say this though. Once again, I've told you I teach kids at church. Funny thing is, a lot of kids who've grown up with Veggietales now remember these designs more than they remember what I'm going to say, I guess, is now the newer stuff / older stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Because Netflix is more accessible than a lot of the other stuff that's out there. Like, I know now stuff is appearing on YouTube, but for the last, like, let's say the kids who grew up since, 2013, in the last 10 years we've been working in the industry, there wasn't really much Veggietales outside of in the house and in the city. So that was what they knew. I remember the first time that now is the Veggietales show that's on Yippee and whatever. The first time I played it for the kids at my church, they were like, oh, why do they look like that?
Reverse.
Which is funny because, like, I was actually shocked because, like, I grew up with the show since I was like 6 years old back in the 90s. But, like, I was like, huh, they actually really did like these. Like, for all intents and purposes, if I can give you a silver lining, kids got it. The kids
I guess it makes a difference of what you first see compared to what you see after. Like, if you grew up with the older, it's like that's what you're used to seeing. And the thing is, we had someone who worked with us who was around our age, like a year or two, and they felt that way about the, you know, the new designs. And we're not saying we're kind of surprised, but it's like, you get it. That's just what they were used to seeing. But it was, I guess, admittedly, it was still kind of hard to believe, like, and I don't want to sound mean saying it's like, man, some people are, I mean, it's okay if you like them, you know, it's just like, people are kind of bothered by it, like, you know, but it's like, you know, like I said, I don't know, maybe just that perspective of, you know, growing up with it, like some people did. So maybe that's just the way we saw it. We kind of, you know, brushed that off, or, you know, a little bit, maybe compared to most people when designing, you know, established characters. But, you know, teach their own.
And It was an interesting time too, because we were only 19 at the time when like that happened. It's just like, I'm sure if we were a little bit older, we would have been like, oh, whatever, But it was just it was definitely a lot of new type of things we were dealing with, But like I said, it was a moment, and the production continued like normal after the initial feedback.
Mm. No, like I'm like I said, I'm very impressed because like I remember hearing that like, so I'm only a little older than you guys. So let's see, 2013, how old would I have been? Because I would have just finished animation. I was maybe 20, 21, right? So I'm like 2 or 3 years older. And like I remember the show coming out and seeing all that, and then learning it was like two 19-year-olds who designed. Just like, what the hell am I doing with my life? I'm like, I haven't designed the whole thing. I haven't completely, like, it to me it seemed like you guys had done everything from the ground up, but I know it was a team and there were other people helping you guys out, but like it's still just like, oh my goodness, that regardless of how I feel about the design, which for me was the kind of like, which I should probably tell you my reaction to it was just kind of like, these are all reasonable choices. Like even when my chat with Tim Hodge, he mentioned that ever since he worked with Phil Vischer and them, he was always like, all these characters look horrible from a side, like what's it called? A side profile view. It's like, and once again, like I still have some of these characters like from the old Veggies, like from a side profile. What the hell am I even looking at?
There's a charm to them.
It's not, from that perspective, it's like we get why people like him, and I think it's like I don't think they look
for the limitations they had at the time. They're not bad. There's like I said, I mean, other people might feel differently about the old ones, but like I could see like the charm in them. I'm not gonna, but I mean, if they look better on the profile when they're new, then just add a nose or something.
Yeah, like I'm once again, I would never bash the original in that sense. It's just I understand the reason, like. Maybe it's because I'm in the industry. Maybe it's because like I've learned about how to use appeal and stuff like that. When I saw the designs, I was like, I'm not gonna throw up.
Yeah. I mean, that's a neutral reaction. You're like, okay.
Yeah, the show isn't directed at me. As long as the kids who are growing up with it get it, praise the Lord. Yeah, but I am like once again, my heart goes out to you because I mentioned once again before we did the interview what happened with us with Thomas the Tank Engine at Jamfilled, and everyone just freaking out and telling us Thomas needs to look like this. How dare you guys change Thomas the Tank Engine? And the guy who ran our Twitter account, bless him, because he was the kindest guy that ever there was. He went and learned about trains to respond to people who were asking about like how many pistons Thomas must have, what type of coal are they still burning in the question that like I would have had no patience for. I've been like, it's
sorry.
Yeah,
exactly.
The train keeps moving. Gotta keep chugging along. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then I gotta ask. So, what's it like working with your sister? Either one of you can answer that question.
It feels like the same when we're drawing at home. Except you have to talk to other people for feedback and ideas and stuff.
Approval. Not that we seek each other for like approval, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not different. We're like we're always sitting by each other.
Same room, next to the chairs in a pod or something. And it's like, but I don't know.
We enjoy working together. I know there's some twins who probably would, or siblings, or however the dynamic is, like, it's always like, don't you want to be independent? Like, okay, we're independent. We just have to be hired together, but we don't mind each other. You know what I mean? Like, we don't mind each other to feel like, well, I want to work in my separate room. Like, you can gossip to each other. I mean, I hate saying that, but you really can. You can vent to each other.
Yeah, we can actually talk like in the same day. About maybe somewhere not in a totally open space, but like, like I feel like that was sort of the advantage of probably what we always have. Like, well, we can just like. If you hear something like, did you hear that? Or, the office stuff or whatever.
Or like, oh man, the work, I've had a lot of work today, just kind of just talking about this stuff. So we enjoy it, but I know some siblings in general don't probably get along as well, or they're married or something that would cause them to be, you know, somewhere else and all that. So it's just worked out that way where we've literally worked in the same room together, and you know, now we're back at home, so it doesn't really matter.
Actually, I'm gonna ask one more Veggietales question. Did you guys have any interest in the more recent series that was on Yippee TV?
I've heard about it. I mean, we haven't watched it, but I guess I almost forgot. Like, I guess they kind of reverted like back to the original, which is like fine. And I don't know if I heard like, was there like a podcast or something, or
They
like,
just did a podcast, and they had fired Phil and Mike.
Yeah,
that's
we're
what
gonna
last
mention that. Yeah, we you know, because we hear like veggie stuff, we don't like keep up with it, but you know, we do kind of, you know, always have an ear out for like, oh, I wonder what it's doing, what new iterations are going to come up, and that was kind of disappointing to hear.
I said I feel like that would be kind of like a blow.
We're not,
you know?
we can't say for sure. We don't know anything about it to know what happened with that, but that was an interesting turn for the veggie world. So I don't know if you know anything more about that or not, but when we heard that,
sorry, I had to cough, but yeah, I know a couple things. I mean, I guess quick rundown. Yes, they fired Phil and Mike mainly because they were asking for more creative control, right?
I see. Okay.
And everyone kind of realized that you know, you can only teach sharing so many times, you can only teach friendship so many times, and they were like, hey, we need to find how we're going to do this. And so Phil and Mike, between wanting to take the show in a different direction and wanting to do some bigger stuff, there was a lot of like there was some sort of clash, right? Also, the Christian world has kind of, immediate landscape has kind of changed in the last little while too. Like when Veggietales came out, it was very easy to kind of be neutral on anything, and
I see.
now it's a little hard, especially in modern day America. And so Phil has taken some, like on his podcast, has taken some relatively interesting stances that some people don't always agree with, because he's a human being, and you know, he's got actual feelings. He isn't just a talking tomato. And so that may have also fed into it. There was talk about doing a VeggieTales movie, and he mentioned in his podcast and stuff like that. It was supposed to be in the same kind of line as Jonah. They wanted to do another big Bible story, but it seems like all of that is in, whether it's in being reevaluated, because now they have new voices, they're not sure what they're going to do, or if DreamWorks is even still going to do it, because I'm not sure if you guys have experienced this yet, but I've now worked on like 3 shows for HBO Max, which I don't think will ever see the light of day. I can't even talk about some of these shows. I'm just like, and some of these I really was excited for the world to see. No one's gonna see it.
Oh man, sorry about that. There's been a lot of
been a lot of that lately. You know, we see it a lot on Twitter and stuff. And like, oh, the show's been not renewed.
And it's hard enough too when you're a freelancer out of the circle. You know, as much as people assume, when you're a freelancer, you really are more on your own. When you're out of the union and everything, or at least here, you know, you don't have as many connections, like you know, immediate things you can just kind of what is it I'm trying to say, like jump onto. Yeah, you can't really transfer from show to show. You're like, if the rest of the animation world is kind of a little bit, you know, not doing well, I mean, you're pretty much just out here waiting for them to catch something too, you know. So it's been interesting I say interesting, not trying to be insensitive, but it's interesting to see I know we're kind of off tangent a little bit, but it made me think that, you know, seeing how the different landscape of animation and how they're distributing things, like, you know, what's next, you know, so it's very interesting. Anyway, I feel bad for the veggie situation, you know, so things happen.
Yeah. And I mean, funny, I'm actually really hoping that Veggietales in the House and in the City gets a better, wider, like a more tangible release. Because I don't know, I think I messaged you guys about this on Instagram, that like they took In the House off, but like In the City is still on Netflix.
maybe it just had its run, like maybe they have a time frame, I guess, of how
Yeah.
long episode, because it's been several years now, so
Yeah.
it's probably just like,
I know Netflix kind of like leaves stuff on and then they take it off. So yeah, who knows when in the city will go
Yeah.
to. But yeah, I don't know. They might do something. They might put it on another platform. Who knows?
it depends who's in charge of like the Veggie franchise too. I mean, I don't know how much DreamWorks owns or if it's completely, if they own it or not, but I guess it's all up to them at the end of the day too. Just kind of weird.
Yo, I gotta tell you. So, when DreamWorks first got Veggietales, this is just once again. I know we're going off tangent.
Oh no, it's
Let's
okay.
get back. When DreamWorks first got Veggietales, a German company in Germany, of course, called up DreamWorks and said, "Hey, we're doing a series about healthy eating. Do you have any characters we can use?" Well, says DreamWorks, and so they did a whole live action show, Veggietales Fitness Off. I can't pronounce the whole.
What?
I'm doing a video about this on my channel. And it's all the VeggieTales character. Well, no, it's Larry, Bob, Junior, Laura living on a farm with a live action farmer, and they're all in big suits with hands and legs. And they go on like there's a weird origin story of how the veggies became like talking walking vegetables, where like this farmer is also an inventor and he made a machine and for some reason put vegetables in it and they became alive, and they teach the kids how to be fit at work, and they teach the history of cucumbers, how cucumbers came from a certain region in Egypt. Then they talk the history of asparagus. Each episode gives you the history of one of the characters of Veggietales.
And they have no like biblical things. Is it just all health related, or like how did they manage to do that?
No, actually,
is it just the designs?
That's very odd.
That's weird.
That's funny. I have to, yeah.
Like I've literally, so I've watched a couple of the episodes, and like they do have 10 minutes of German translated VeggieTales episodes. So if God is mentioned in the episode, I guess God is mentioned there. So like they've done Josh and the Big Wall, they've done King George, they did. Sorry, I think they did Duke and the Pie War. Like they just kind of translated into German and put it up. And so I'm like, you can't tell some of those stories without God. So like even the NBC, when NBC used to play VeggieTales on TV on Cubo, right? They scrubbed it as hard as they could to get the God out. But at a certain point, it's like, well, what's the motivation in this scene? It's a Bible story told in whatever setting. Someone is going to mention God in Joshua and the Battle of Jericho.
That's kind of like, that's very strange. But I didn't know they had that. Curious how they managed to do that. We'll look at that.
Yeah.
I'll send you a link. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a Brazilian. The Brazilian one was more Christian. I think the Brazilian government was more open to airing a Christian TV show. There was, I think, I can't remember. I want to, I'm going to hold my tongue because I know someone else who actually really cares about it is going to be like, no, that's not right. But there were Brazilian celebrities who make like cameo appearances and stuff in the live action VeggieTales. Also, once again, it is just kind of like the framing device for an animated episode. Like Bob and Larry will have a live action problem. Brazilian celebrity will come in and say, hey, Bob and Larry, I just finished playing football today, and I'm having this problem too. Well, says Bob and Larry, we had the same problem when we were Sherlock and Watson or whatever we were doing.
I didn't realize they had
like
so many different
spin-offs.
Yeah. I imagine like a bootleg version, but not like an actual.
Like, yeah, I didn't know there was something.
I'd assume like translations or something of the show, but not like, that's very.
It's
different.
Very strange. But like, I have a friend who's from Ecuador, and he watched it that way. And when he came here, he was like, oh yeah, what happened to their live action costumes? And I was like, what? I had to go.
We have news for you. That's interesting.
Yeah. So so you guys have a webtoon. Let's start with that. So did the idea for the webtoon come as you were trying to make the short, or vice versa? How did that grow? Actually, first, tell us what it's all about. Let me shut up.
Okay. Well, the webtoon is it's called The Moon and Me, about a girl who's in a strange little lunar world, trying to figure out her place in that world and the struggles she has surrounding it, how she deals with it and how she deals with other people, like moon people, but it's just people in her world and things she needs to figure out within herself to make things better. With how it started was actually like a series of just random illustrations that we were just doing for fun, and they didn't really have any meaning to it. And it's like, oh, it's just kind of, sometimes we just do random stuff like draw a girl with some stars and moons, whatever, and not like this is anything new. But then I guess for some reason one day it's like, oh, I just wanted to add text to it, and unintentionally made a little comic with it, with whatever the intro. What you see is like just a test of that, and about a couple chapters later, it's sort of, it's kind of strange. Like it didn't really start with any big idea.
Hey,
Veggietales. or an actual
bring it all
script.
full circle.
Yeah. Or a real script or anything of what the story was about. But the more we kind of kept talking about it, it's like, oh, we want to make something a little bit more meaningful and kind of have, a lot of this kind of, I wouldn't say total lore, but like, kind of world building, something to make it interesting for the main characters. Like, well, this, this be kind of cool. It's just kind of keep writing. And, in a lot of the chapters later, it didn't really have a full script or anything still, and it still doesn't, but honestly, but there was like a story kind of forming out of it, and with whatever you can read online, like, it's out there, but to what we have planned for the long run and like even the ending, I was like, no, not that it's not in a pretentious way. So a lot of it has a lot of metaphorical meaning and sometimes just the surrealness just to make it look kind of interesting, but I was like thinking for the future stuff, like, it does, we feel like, it's like it's got maybe a little something to it more than what it seems so far. We hope, it depends on how much time we have to work on it, but it's like it kind of accidentally, we felt like maybe it was made into something, we didn't expect or kind of unique.
Yeah.
So it definitely started out as experimental, but it was just something to kind of keep ourselves busy as we move back home to, just something to do on the side, and a different venture of our storytelling skills instead of just making illustrations where it's more narrative driven. So everything, it really is just more experimental. It's just what's kind of difficult about webtoons, or at least the expectations, is that, like people who get on originals, which is basically like the main section of webtoon, you're expected to have like so many panels, like, and get from this point to this point. And just because of our time that we have and everything, it's hard for us to squeeze in that many panels to get like to the point quicker. So, that's why we're on the section of webtoon that we're on called Canvas, and it just made sense just to kind of for us to go with the flow. And we're very, glad to see that some people are starting to catch on to certain things, but I also feel like the majority of maybe the audience in webtoon is a little younger. So maybe at the same time, it's like, I believe the people who are kind of maybe starting to connect dots or kind of come up with their own interpretation, which we encourage, what I mean, are a little bit older, and they kind of get that way of storytelling than maybe like a little bit. When I mean young, I'm talking about like however old you are, like 11 or something. And I don't mean any disrespect. I'm sure there's some who can get maybe more abstract feelings or concepts, but it's definitely a different kind of story that we just wanted to experiment with and just kind of have fun and kind of think our way through it. But we're getting more clear of what we want, I guess, to show in the story. But maybe we should have called it a mystery as well, because it's more mysterious. But
it's not like a true mystery, but it definitely builds up, or we hope it will build up to something, kind of slowly reveal itself instead of having like a big old exposition at the beginning, because like then it'll be done if you
Yeah.
explain everything,
Yeah,
and it's like
not that fun. So
didn't really want to do that, but plus we have time, but kind of not like a lot of time just to sit and work on it.
Hold on, everyone. We're not quite ready yet. Give us a second.
I was gonna say it gives me a lot of like Spirited Away vibes. Maybe I'm crazy, but when I watched Spirited Away, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know Japanese mythology. I just watched a girl have her parents turned into pigs, and I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I am very interested in where, in this case, Miyazaki was taking the story. And similarly, I see a little moon character and another little moon character. I see this world with like glowing fish, and then like this weird, like tall moon-headed man who's like sending letters to her, and I'm like, what's happening? I mean, I'm not bored. I'm loving the art. I'm loving but what's going on?
That's very interesting, because we had mentioned that too. Like, I mean, like I said, to clear the air, like there was no definitive script when we first made this, but as we're moving along, there is going to be more of a. It will make sense. I mean, we've connected the dots. Okay, like we can make sense and connect things that we may have drawn and whatever. But I think that's a good example too of, I think, the different kind of storytelling that people aren't used to. And I just think maybe, I don't know if that was really our intention, but how we're viewing it now, we've talked about this actually, like Spirited Away, everyone just kind of accepted it as it was, and yet that's like one of his most iconic movies. And I'm not saying ours is iconic or anything, but I think there's like a type of storytelling. I mean, people like the movie because of the feeling they got from it, not necessarily that they got what it meant. I mean, people can have their theories.
You have some basic aspects, and I'm sure a lot more was explained from the cultural like aspects of it. But yeah, but it's almost like, yeah, if you have to kind of accept, like, just, I don't know, following the feelings of the characters, and all the things that they're going through, and like, well, I had to figure out, like, what does this relate to, or what does this represent, and maybe not a lot of people like to think that way. I mean, we're not saying it's some kind of like, ooh, like you have to be like a scholar to figure this out, but
people should be open, I guess, to having more like experiences when they're reading things, instead of just like having to have everything there for them to get. I'm not saying you won't get it, or you will, but I think sometimes it's just like entertainment too, it's kind of, I mean, like I said, there are reasons like what Spirited Away means or not, but a lot of the, like, I am thinking of now, like a lot of the most memorable scenes out of context, there isn't much context. It's like, it's her reacting to things that are happening in her world. And that's why people, I think, enjoy the movie, because they see a girl grow from being kind of whiny and, a child, right, to a little bit more mature and kind of dealing with these weird situations, and I think maybe a lot of people expect these days to have a clear cut like storyline, or like, we need to know what's happening, otherwise I can't get into it. And sometimes you just kind of have to fall into it and just kind of experience it. And I like to think that, at least I hope, that's what people can enjoy out of it, instead of thinking too hard about it. I mean, eventually, like I said, there will be a kind of a finale, and I get it. But I mean, even if you don't get it when it happens, it's okay. It's just something fun for us to do, and I hope it's inspiring and fun for people to read. So
I love that. Yeah, because it's the journey, right? Like, what I liked about Spirited Away, sure, I didn't know everything, and you're right, I journeyed with her because she didn't know everything either.
Yeah, that's true.
But I gotta ask, what are your inspirations? Not just in telling this individual story, but in your art. What inspires your style of digital art?
There's definitely a lot of artists through the years that we look to. I know some, worked in the industry, and some not. I guess it seems like there's always like a lot of inspiration but it's almost like not really. I guess I feel like a singular kind of thing
Yeah,
now.
it's
I
not
mean,
like it's
yeah,
not like a
it's like that.
direct connection.
I think our
Mm.
inspirations when we were younger were a lot more like, oh, Mary Blair, like, some Disney people and people you found online, other artists. And then as we, you get older and your inspirations become painters and makes you modern and old and then just kind of things that you've observed and like over time and you start kind of melding your own thing, I guess that's kind of what happens. Like there isn't one singular person now who we I mean we look to a lot of different kinds of art and artists and stuff like that. I mean, not to sound like generic, but I do feel like sometimes maybe people are very limited in what they want to enjoy, which is fine, but I know we're very open to what we like to enjoy. And I think it's a lot of the reason why I think recently our work, I mean, like you can probably even see in our older work, there's an essence to like our voice in it, but we do kind of try different things, and it kind of shifts over the years of techniques or the way we draw something. Like we used to draw more textural several years ago, and now ours are a little bit more streamlined just because we feel like doing it. So, whoever comes across our way that we think it's cool, whatever, we try to soak in what we like about it. Try not to copy anyone, obviously, but trying to just it comes out however it comes out through our lens and yeah, but just many people to give you a generic answer.
Fair enough. Okay, so your comic, turning it into an animated short. 1, where'd the idea come from? 2, who's working on it with you? And 3, where can people find out more about this? But don't worry, I'll come back and answer those questions if you.
That's okay. Well, I guess obviously we've kind of wanted to always make ideas come to life. I know it sounds like a general thing to say, but I feel like us being here at home now, we kind of had doing more freelance that we have that window of opportunity to like, well, maybe we should just make a short film, but it's like, well, make about what? So, well, let's just do a little side story, like just from the comic. I guess we use that as a building off point. And like, well, let's do that. So how are we going to do it? Well, hopefully the help fund it through Kickstarter on February 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think there's some confusion from some people, not a lot, that it's already made. It's not already made. It's to help fund the production, to pay people, get some cool stuff. But yeah, it's to help make the film, which I guess we could be aiming like 10 minutes to however many minutes it might last, but yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how that happened. We're definitely working with a lot of individuals who've worked in the industry for some time, and then some are new. I mean, they probably worked on some things, but kind of new in a sense that I don't know if they were like in the main part of the industry or they're really just new that they're trying to get their foot in like production work and stuff and having that experience for them so they can learn about it. So it's kind of a mixture of different people that's helping us. We'll probably maybe even announce like, who could be kind of helping along the way, once that gets launched and stuff, and we'll kind of release more information. But for things like this, like people can go in and out too, since it's kind of like it's an independent project and other people have other full-time jobs. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of a different group of experiences in this film, but we hope that they all have a good time.
Cool. What program are you guys using to animate? Like, I've seen the animation of like the fish going by, and
so those test images were done in a program called Moho. But we didn't do it. Somebody else obviously did it for us, and they did a really cool job. That's not how it will be moving, but that like in the final animation. But I think it's just sort of to give us an idea of like effects tests and how a lot of that stuff will blend together. But for main animation programs, I don't know. I guess everyone like uses different things.
Some people use TV Paint. I think the majority of them do, but like at this point, I guess whatever they can do on their end with whatever program they have.
I think some are doing pencil and paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I
Okay.
guess whatever they have the tools available, that's what they'll be using. But there'll probably be some more along the way that might have a different program. So we're not entirely sure.
We're gonna work with what they have.
Yeah.
They're gonna work with what they have, and we'll accept with what they
Mhm.
have. But yeah, it's just kind of a mishmash of things and tools. So we're definitely gonna have to get familiar with what they're working on in order to, I guess, direct them of how we want something to look. So we're gonna be learning a lot too while we do all this.
Wrap this up because now it's been an hour and a half. And I know if I want to talk to you again, I can send you a message on Instagram. So yeah. But that means it's time to open up and see if this actually is LarryBoy. I'm pretty sure it is, but
I want a Petunia. I want Petunia. I like Petunia. But if it's LarryBoy, that's fine. He was cool. That was a cool design.
oh,
Oh,
snap.
Wow.
It's your
That's
boy,
so
LarryBoy.
Nice.
cool.
And I bring him out partially because I want to know, did you guys also do like the full character design for these characters? Like, did you guys make decisions on like what the helmet was going to look like, how he's going to, because he looks, for lack of a better term, very different than the original LarryBoy.
Yeah.
Kind of more Iron Man, in my opinion, more Iron Man inspired.
He kind of told us kind of, I guess I don't want to say freshen it up, but to kind of incorporate, I want to see a sleeker kind of thing. So we just kind of built off that, and he has like more of the HUD display kind of helmet thing, even though it's not on there.
It's not on this, but I know.
Yeah, kind of a little bit, I don't know what that texture you even call in the suit, but yeah, something a little bit more sleeker, and hopefully that was okay. But anyway, I think we actually redid the car, the Larry?
Yeah, you did.
I don't remember. Yeah, I mean, it's been so long.
We're pretty much responsible for all the designs, the clothing, and everything. It was just as simple as like making 10 versions, just how many colored. We usually did it in color, like iterations of something, like variations of the outfits and colors and hairstyles or whatever. And then they just say, we want this one and a mixture of that one, and then that would be like that would be the process. So it would go pretty quick. Sometimes we nail things pretty quickly, and I think the LarryBoy one was done relatively quick. So yeah.
No, it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite updated designs because I was like, oh, actually, that's really cool. Because yeah, like you said, old LarryBoy is very 1980s Batman initially. And then I think he got like an update when they did the cartoon version and kind of hit a little bit of Spider-Man-y type of thing, more slick, more spandex. And so then when you guys finally got your hands on it, I'm like, oh, okay, it's really cool. It's almost Buzz Lightyear in like the way it glows.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the wings were to pop out of the back. I mean, obviously not on this toy. Yeah, I thought that was and he had like, the whole screen display, like Iron Man with Jarvis. And I was like, okay, that's pretty neat. And if I have the time, there is a video I'm trying to do on the history of LarryBoy. If you have any art that you can submit, that would be fantastic for when I get to that. Yeah, I think any other questions, I will just, directly message you and go, hey, this is cool that's happening. Or, oh my goodness, let me jump on to this Kickstarter and help you out. All that jazz.
Cool.
But any final words?
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
sorry we couldn't meet the first few times, just schedule change, but here we are. And thank you for the interesting questions, and hope we didn't disappoint.
Okay, it's the end of the video. For you who stuck around, I'm glad you guys got a little taste of the story of the redesign of LarryBoy. I might release that as its own individual video, just because I know some people did not watch the whole thing. So, yeah, that will come out on its own. Other than that, if you enjoyed these interviews, please let me know in the comments, because I have now had two. I've had obviously Tim Hodge and now Elena and Olivia. So, I could, reach out, see we get some more Veggietales peeps. Other than that, I should probably also thank Finn, of Unofficial Veggietales podcast, who gave me a couple of the questions I did ask to the young ladies about Veggietales. So check out I can't imagine you're checking out my channel and you haven't checked out Finn's channel. So, but if you haven't, go check out Unofficial Veggietales and continue to check out Moon and Me, and obviously subscribe to SEA Storyteller for you to get more information and more funny, wacky videos as done by me. Anyway, this is the SEA Storyteller signing off.
Bob something. I'm a superhero.